the Bay home, and today I'm so excited to have Gina with me. So, Gina, go ahead and introduce yourself, tell people where to find you online and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I'm Gina Cotting, and on Instagram, my tag is not your grandma's homemaker. I am a homemaker, stay-at-home mom. I have 5 kids, and in the middle there, we had a sixth one that was stillborn. I was raised like pretty crunchy as far as like cooking everything from scratch. Everything was pretty homemade. We didn't use medicine, like kind of like only in an emergency, stuff like that. Just very like if you had a headache, drink some water, eat some food, take a nap kind of thing. And yeah, so that's kind of like where it all started. And now I'm actually, my high school boyfriend became a doctor. And so it was like, wait, what are we doing here? But it blends really well. Actually, he's an emergency medicine doctor. So it kind of, it just flows, right? We would definitely go to the emergency room if we needed to. And there's a lot of like very practical, useful things that he knows. And it actually jives really well.
That's awesome, and I love that. So, was he crunchy as well, or you kind of take him along that path? Or
He's definitely grown with me. Where he's always like been super respectful of like my hobbies and interests and like, oh yeah, okay, honey, and he'll kind of like try whatever like concoctions I kind of give him with oils or like grounding or like you need sunlight or fresh air or like whatever it is, go take a nap, take some minerals, stuff like that. And honestly, those things really work. So it's kind of proves itself. And we just have like that really good balance of when those things are kind of like at their end or when you need something that's just like modern and stronger or whatever it may be. We definitely have that balance, and those things are just, they're kind of like in that like 10% or less range. And I feel like that's a really happy like balance that we have. So he's definitely seen the light. Yeah, it's fun.
yeah, I love that. I think sometimes like that's like the challenging part in my experience anyway is like getting the husband on board sometimes,
Mhm.
like, of like different things. And I think they do learn and they grow with you. And like I feel like as a homemaker too, we do have more time to research and to like really dive deep into things and really like try to figure out what's gonna be best for our families. Where when our husbands are at work all day, they don't get all that time to research. So
Yeah,
um but yeah,
absolutely.
I'm like, I'm still like with the food dyes and stuff. Like, I'm like, no food dyes. And my husband's like, oh, I forgot. Like,
Yeah,
so it's just a learning and growing process. And I think, we're looking for progress and not perfection. And
absolutely.
so I don't know if we talked about what we're going to talk about, but I know it's on my thumbnail. So simple, crunchy living and making it easy too, right? Like, and making it fun is what you had on your
Mhm.
Instagram profile as well. So, I think, like, what do you think the biggest challenge for people who want a more crunchy lifestyle? Like, what do you think the biggest challenges are that they're facing?
I think some of the biggest challenges are hearing from different perspectives, because it's kind of like with most things in life where, in this crunchy box, there's still different approaches and or like methods or opinions, flavors, personalities, if you will. And it can be really hard to like just start just because of that. Or maybe you get started a little bit and then someone says something like totally opposite, and then you're like, oh man, like now, like what is right, and we really want this like it can feel really comforting if there's just like this answer and it's just like a plan and it can be followed, and that's it, and like hopefully that works, right? I've definitely, that is my personality 100%. So but I've had to rely more or just kind of like navigate and find what are the principles that are important to me instead of the prescriptions, because I think you can get farther with that and kind of weed out, like, kind of just get the things that are just distracting or just extra for you or that just aren't going to help you personally, because we all need slightly different things. Although I believe like most principles will apply to most people. Um, so if you can kind of hone in on those principles, then I think it's going to be easier to work with around your family, your schedule, your resources, your knowledge, time, energy, emotional capacity, and all of those things. I definitely think if you can find the principles, then it's going to simplify all everyone's plans and opinions and checklists and things like that. So, for example, one principle I have as like a label reader, right? And that can get like, oh my gosh, this can take up my whole life just reading labels. It was a while ago. I did grow up as a label reader. My mom was a label reader like in the 90s, and she was like, "Oh, it has like just capital letters. We're not going to eat that." It's like BHT, TBHQ, like the preservatives, right? Those are easy ones to spot. They're usually right at the end of the list. Um, and so we could not eat any cereal except Cheerios, like Honey Nut Cheerios or plain Cheerios. I think maybe Kicks were the only ones that didn't have preservatives. And so I have always been a label reader. But the thing is, like, the game changes. So they're coming up with new stuff all the time, or they're renaming things, or they're putting it somewhere else on the label, or they just like coin new phrases, right? I mean, organic was not a thing in the 90s. So like there's just labels change. But what I shifted to when I became a homemaker and I was like, okay, now I'm 100% in control of this because I did grow up cooking for my family. So my mom worked a lot. So I knew how to do kitchen stuff. And she would kind of ask me, like, what do you want to make for dinner? Like twice a week. And we had this little schedule. But I wasn't doing everything, all the shopping and everything. So when I had to start doing the shopping, I realized that the way to simplify my life was I could buy only one ingredient things, which I mostly do. And so I think that can be really helpful. And also, instead of trying to weed out all things you don't want on your label, what do you want on the label? And so that's a main way that I look for skincare. Actually, I think that's super helpful because there's like just thousands of ingredients that can be on skincare. At a grocery store, you can easily pick up like meat, cheese, milk, yogurt, fruit, veggies. Like that's pretty simple to get one ingredient things. But skincare is like it's a lot harder to get just one ingredient. So if you've got like me 10 ingredients or like 5 ingredients, it's still going to take up a lot of time. So if you could find what am I looking for in a label, then like on the ingredients, not like on the front where they want you to buy something, but on the back of the ingredients list, that can be really helpful. That has saved me a lot of time, and especially like new snacks and stuff. Like we don't eat a lot of snacks, but every once in a while we're out somewhere, or I'm just like I don't want to like I can't make lunch while we're shopping, so we're just gonna grab some snacks. So I'll be like looking for, okay, let me just see like what do we want to eat because there's way more things that we don't want to eat and it's just time waster. So that's
For
one of my
sure.
principles. I'm trying to operate on principles to save myself time and like I said because the game always changes.
Yeah, and I think that's great, and when you were talking about that stuff, I like sustainability just really stood out to me, right? Like,
Hmm.
we want it to be sustainable for our families, and, like, I know when I first started entering this world, I started out kinda slow, but then, like, once I got into it, I was kinda, like, way, like, perfectionism, like,
Hmm.
"We can't have this, and this," and it just caused burnout and exhaustion, and then, like, the more kids you add to it too, like, because I remember, like, I would pack all of our food to every event we went to because I was, like, so, like, "Oh, we cannot have, like, the crap?" Um, so I think, like, just learning what feels right for you and your family, that flexibility. But then, like, when you're talking about reading labels and stuff, like, I never even thought to read a label as a kid, like, I never like, I didn't grow up that way. We didn't read the labels, like, we ate ramen noodles and we had, tuna helper, hamburger helper type meals, so, like, it's just crazy, like, the idea of, like, when I was switching, I'm like, "Oh, like, there's a lot of crap in this for no reason," you know? Why? Why do they have all this garbage in here when we don't need all this garbage? And I'll tell you, when I first started reading labels, I saw a Dr. Oz episode, and this is, like, my entry in, and he talked about, like, the top 5 ingredients should not have, like, sugar, high fructose corn syrup. I'm trying to think of what the other ones were, but he had just, like, a list, and so, like, that's how I kinda started at
Mhm.
first, was like, "Okay, like, it can't be in the like, these ones can't be in the top 5?" And then, of course, as I learned more and stuff, like you're saying, like the one ingredient stuff, that's the best. Even like snacks, getting just a cheese stick, mozzarella sticks.
Yeah, so
Um,
simple.
Yeah, and then, like, I know we like to do for, like, breakfast a lot, like, plain yogurt and stuff, and we can
Mhm.
even dive into that kinda stuff, so, how have you simplified? Like, because I know, like, it can get kinda complicating sometimes, so how have you found simplicity? I know we just talked about, like, one ingredient type stuff, but if
Mhm.
you have any, like, deep dive.
Yeah, so probably, oh man, a lot of ways. So the one ingredients things helps a lot. And then another one is repetition. And it's like not fun and it's not pretty and it doesn't like look amazing on Instagram or anything. Or like I don't have a recipe blog because I just realized I tried to do that a while ago, but I just realized we like eat the same five things over and over and over again. And so it's too boring to like share as on a whole like recipe thing or like a food Instagram, but it really really helps. I'm so busy and it's like an efficiency thing, right? So if I'm just like really used to making something, it can go so quickly and it's less decision making and I can, each time I do it, I can make a little quicker. It makes it quicker for shopping if I just go through the store and grab like the same 40 things every week or like on the Instacart, it's like it just reminds me what I bought last week and I'm like, same exact thing. So repetition is one. And then finding little ways when you do get bored to kind of swap things out, right? So I'll change up like fresh fruit or frozen fruit. Sometimes we'll do mango or berries or we'll change it up. Um, as far as like, those little things that get changed. Honestly, like even for kids, just swapping like maple syrup in our yogurt or honey in the yogurt, like they feel like it's different. Like so little things like that, or like what kind of tea are we drinking? But in my mind, it's like we're having tea, yogurt, and eggs like every day for breakfast. And it's to me, that's like the same meal. And those little tweaks can seem more different to the kids and can like give a little variety where it's not exactly the same, but it's close enough and it doesn't change my shopping, like how I cook the eggs. It's still just like 5 dozen eggs every week. So definitely simplicity and repetition. Um, some simple ingredients. And another thing is just like almost just really just like a mindset of like I'm just eating because like my body needs to keep going. And I love fun. I actually love cooking. I love like different cuisines. I'll watch when I have time to watch something, I usually not always, but like I will pick a food show very often. I love going out to different places. Like I love Korean food. I love like French food and German food and Mexican food. Like I love all of the food and I have gone through a lot of phases where I've cooked lots of different cuisines, like at home. I have German cookbooks, Indian cookbooks. Like I've got a huge shelf of cookbooks. But right now, keeping it simple, quick, affordable, like easy on my brain and my emotional capacity, I'm just like, all of that's kind of in the trash right now. And we're just doing the bare basics. And I just realized that like the less I like care about like, oh, we need to have all these different things. It needs to be new and interesting and exciting and or, you know, I just don't need all of that. Like we're just eating so we can eat. And I'd rather focus on having a conversation or like reading a snippet out of a book. Like the mealtime is not just like stuffing our bellies and like we do want to be full, right? And so we can make it to the next meal and healthy and grow our bodies and keep going and have energy. But a meal is so much more than that. And focusing on like bringing in those other things that like nourish your spirit and your soul and bring the family together and not so much as like everything's about the food can kind of give it like where it's not the star of the show, like it just doesn't matter as much to me like what we're having all the time, so the repetition is like, it doesn't bother me. Honestly, people will go to Starbucks every day and order the same thing or like McDonald's or like, they'll get drive through all the time and not realize how repetitive that is. But then when they have to cook at home, they're like, oh, I want something different. And it's like, I don't know. I think we're creatures of habit. And if you can like set that in your mind of like, it's okay to have the same thing a lot of times in a lot of different ways. Like, if you imagine before grocery stores or before mass transportation and it was so easy to travel everywhere, the only people having like exotic things or think different cuisines from different lands were just like the super tiny group of like really wealthy people, like elite of the world, because they could afford that. It costs so much resources to get information and input from other lands. All they had was what would grow in their own area. I mean, not like too tightly, but like that's basically what people have always had. So I love reading about in my spare time pre-industrial like cultures, and they're pretty localized, right? Like the British Isles, like they had like one set of food that they were eating, and then like the Pacific Islanders, they had a different set of food, and that's all they had. It was just had to be right there. They could grow it, catch it, hunt it, gather, get out of the ocean, something like that. And that's all they had. And if you imagine like these are the only foods I can eat, like we we just have to eat to live instead of live to eat. So that's really helped me a lot as well, and especially like talking to my kids where um we consciously choose when we're going to have like the fun things and the different things, and then it's actually really enjoyable instead of trying to have something different every single day of the whole month. Like say if we made like a month meal plan, which I have done a lot for many years, I did that. Instead of like trying to think out like 30 different things 3 times a day, so like 90 things, right? I can just think like, oh, I know there's gonna be like a couple birthday parties this week, like where there's gonna be candy or pizza or cake, cupcakes, whatever it is, like go fully enjoy it. And at home, we're just gonna do kind of like the regular stuff. But like that's okay. We're thankful, we're content, like we're glad to be together, have something that's easy, nourishing, that we can afford, that's not too hard, doesn't take too much time, like, and it just happens to be repetitive, and that's okay. So I think those are some of my couple top things. And then also probably my last main one would be it well it kind of goes hand in hand with the repetition, is that as far as like preparing or being in the kitchen, I used to, for a few years there, I would plan out a whole hour for like cooking and preparing the meal like 3 times a day. And this was mostly when like my kids weren't really helping me in the kitchen. So there would be interruptions and all these different things. And I also planned it for a little bit of like me time. The kids were basically like not allowed in the kitchen for a couple of years there when they were all little, and I made sure they were like safe and playing and happy and stuff. Um, but that would be like my whole time, and I don't have that time anymore. My kids are helping me in the kitchen, so there's noise, there's conversation, there's people coming in and out. I'm like teaching them kitchen skills, and so it's not quite the same as it used to be. But I do try and prep like dinner at lunchtime. So we'll make lunch, eat, and while the kids are usually cleaning up, I'm usually trying to make dinner, or at least like shred the cheese, like season the meat, like put something in the instant pot and do it ahead of time, and that makes the dinner super easy. Right now we kind of just started where we're going out for like sports and stuff, and as a homeschooler, it kind of like hurt my brain for a second, like, oh no, the sports are at dinner time. This is why my mom never let me do this growing up, because it was like our only time together, right? But I realized because we are homeschoolers, we don't have to have dinner as our only time together. So it's been totally smooth and totally fine. And it's actually helped reduce my kitchen time and make things even more simple, where I'm cooking dinner ahead of time almost every day of the week. And that really, really helps, because then there's like less cleanup, and I'm not thinking about it 3 times a day. I'm only thinking about it twice a day. So that's been really good as well. If I could recommend one like huge time saver, it would be the instant pot for sure. I should have got it way sooner.
I completely agree. The note that you were talking about, like, having kids, so this year we decided to let our kids do, like, gymnastics and stuff,
Hmm.
and there's one day a week where we have to leave at, like, 3:30, we don't get home till 6:30, so it's like we have a snack before we leave, and then, like, dinner's ready when we get home. But I found, like, what really works for me is, like, having the meat cooked ahead of time
Hmm.
and just coming home and heating it up, like, and that's been, like, a huge time saver, like, because then you're getting it done, like, I don't know, sometimes I hit that 3 o'clock slump, where you're just
Yeah.
tired and ready for a nap or whatever, and it's like, "Ah, I gotta go make dinner." And so, a good sheet that I found, and a good shortcut in a sense, is just, like, always having your meat, like, kinda ready to go, you know? Um, and, yeah, like you're saying, like, repetition, and I know a lot of people be like, "Oh, like, I don't like eating the same thing," but it's like, is that true? Like, because I feel like my family, like, for us anyway, we can live on tacos and enchiladas, like, all
Right?
day, every
Yeah.
day. Like,
Like this stuff
we
you
are so,
love.
like
Yep.
yeah, yeah. But like you're talking about just, like, simplifying the meal too, like, because I used to stress so much and I like, about menu planning and, like, just, like,
Mhm.
figuring out, "Okay, what am I gonna buy?" and, like, all that stuff, and, like, you're talking about, like, if you can just simplify it and have it be, like, super repetitive or just say, like, "Okay, we're gonna have meat, veggies, and" maybe potatoes or something,
Mhm.
then that makes it super simple just to swap out different veggies, different meats,
Yep.
sweet potatoes, like, I don't know.
Mhm.
Um, and
That's
I know you're
exactly
doing
how we grew up.
yeah,
That's how we would do our meal planning because my mom worked a ton, so we did have like a little plan. Different kids had different days they were in charge of, and she basically taught us to build a meal with like a meat, a veggie, which usually we just got frozen veggies, like nothing fancy, and we would like steam them and like a pasta or potato or rice, and that's how we built meals all the time. And sometimes you get creative and you're like, ooh, I could stick all of those things in a lasagna, right? So it's like, but it's the same concept. It has like basically those same components and every meal.
yeah. Well, and if you have the time and energy to, like, go for it if you wanna do something, like,
Yeah.
elaborate, but I know as, like, a homeschool mom with lots of
Mhm.
kids and different activities that we're doing, I'm just like, I want it simple, and I feel like a lot of women can probably resonate with that too and having more simplicity in their lives, so,
Mhm.
let's talk about though recently, I feel like you're kinda making a shift in your personal diet, and I don't know if your whole family's doing it, but it sounds like you're doing more of a carnivore type
Mhm.
diet, right?
I am almost, yeah. So I guess if you were had to pick something to Google, it would be like animal based, where I'm pretty much just eating like 90% meat and dairy, and then I eat fruit, some fruit for carbs. I'm not picky about which fruit really, because I don't have time to like research everyone's different opinions about like which fruit animal based people are supposed to eat or avoid or anything like that. I just eat what we have mostly. Mostly I'll eat dates or dried mango because it's sitting in the cupboard right there while I'm cooking. I like have my own stash, and I like love them. But they're also like they're really dense, right? Like you can eat like 8 quarts of blueberries and there's a lot of water in them, right? But the dates and the dried mango, I just love because I like 3 pieces and like I'm good to go because they're calorie dense, like nutrient and carb dense. Don't have time to eat more. So I'm doing that right now because I have kind of like filtered out so many other things that I think that I thought could have been factors in as far as like maybe some like autoimmune type of things. Um, I get like a little bit of like psoriasis skin flares, and since the last two babies that I had, almost like the day after I gave birth, my joints started hurting so bad. And, I gave it some time because that's like a huge hormone crash. I'm like, okay, maybe when my hormones come back, it'll kind of like go away. Maybe it's just like my body's like, whoa, that was like a big change all of a sudden, or like aging, but it was like just a really specific type of joint pain in my hands when I woke up, and then it kind of like dissipates. Um, but it wasn't going away. So I'm like waiting and waiting, like, okay, like my hormones are coming back and like it's still doing it. And I felt like it's kind of like progressing and getting a little bit worse. I'm trying to think if there's like something else I was working on as well, but um yeah, as far as my skin and the joints, like they could definitely go hand in hand. It could almost be like the same thing, and your body's like expressing it in these multiple different ways. Um, but yeah, so that's why I'm doing it right now. And I would say the grains have been my stronghold. I've fermented the grains, soaked them for days, done the sourdough, everything like alternative grains, like the non gluten grains. Like I've done everything in my power and brain and possible things to still hold on to the grains because I just love them. I love bread. I love baking. I love the smell and slapping a butter on it and like rice. I love rice. Um, so I just had to let them go. And right now it's definitely helping me. Um, I hit a little slump the last couple of weeks where I was just having whatever like pasta and bread, chips or potatoes everyone else was having in the family. So, and that kind of wasn't, I was just feeling super fatigued as well. So that was the other thing. But I had no energy. I was getting lots of sleep the last couple of weeks in particular. But like having the grains right now, my body is just like, we just don't want that right now. So, my hopeful goal is that I can reintroduce grains after a while. And I'm not sure if it's just going to be like a time waiting thing or if it goes together with something else, like I'm still nursing, so I haven't done like a metal detox or anything like that. Cause I'm just kind of waiting till I'm done nursing. So, I mean, there's not too many things left on the list for me to try. But for right now, like animal foods, meat, dairy, and fruit, I feel great. So I've been having tons of energy. Like I'm not, I mean, unless I just don't sleep at night, like I feel like I have energy. Um, it was it was pretty distinct for me, like, just having that little break and, like, eating grains again the last few weeks, but honestly, the first day I went back, I had complete energy. I was, like, falling asleep at, like, 10:30 in the morning, just, like, walking around. So it was pretty not fun. So the last, like, 5 days I've been back on it, just that's just those few couple foods, and it's a huge difference. Um, as far as what the family has, they still kind of have. I have upped everyone's like meat consumption. I would say accidentally before I was doing this. We were probably eating like a grain based diet, like with meat and like a little fruit or veggies. And now I've just kind of like shifted it a little where it's like meat based, where it's like more meat, mostly and more red meat as opposed to like white and leaner meats. And then like instead of having um, grains 3 times a day, hopefully only once a day, maybe twice as far as meals go, and just a little bit more fruit as far as like carbs. So I haven't done a lot of changes in the family, and not really for any particular reason, except that it's easier to not make completely different things for every single meal. So I did start doing like some grain free meals for the family, but only because it makes it easier for me as like the main food chef. And not really because I necessarily think they like need it for any particular reason, but honestly, when there's like a tummy bug or something, that's just what I do. I just strip everything back, meat, broth, fruit. And unless someone's like having stuff coming out both ends, I might throw some crackers in their mouth, but but usually I think it really helps just to do the super basic like stomach easy things because we did have like a stomach bug a couple weeks ago, but that was helpful. So the my husband is also doing basically like carnivore with some carbs with me as well. So he was losing some weight and that was great. He's also going to the gym more. So I don't like some people think it's like the magic key to their weight loss. That's possible. I can't like necessarily say that is or not working for them. I'm not doing it for weight loss. Actually, I've had issues with my first couple kids after the first 3 or 4 of losing way too much weight. And I think it was definitely because not getting enough protein. And for me, I wasn't having I think it was just like an accidentally very plant-based diet and I was just like wasting away. Um I had like a couple kind of like weird skin conditions come and go. I was super fatigued. My thyroid was like like some blood tests were like where some doctors wanted to ignore it. Some doctors were like, I guess we could look further into it. So it was kind of like on the edge. It's just super fatigued. I probably already said that. And just I couldn't keep weight on my body. And so as like an already small person, I was just like my muscle mass, I probably lost like 20 pounds of muscle. So now I'm kind of back to my like what I consider like my normal weight. I got married young, like right after high school, and started having kids right away. So to me, like my normal is like my high school phase, which is like kind of weird to talk about now. I'm in my 30s, so like I'm not trying to just look like I was in high school, but that's just what's about average for me. Um, and just not having a lot of weight to lose, and then dropping like 20 pounds. Oh man, my clothes were like falling off. I couldn't keep pants on me, and I just was so tired. I couldn't even exercise. Like just walking up the stairs was super exhausting. So now much more protein, probably a lot more calories. I'm not really sure as far as calories, so I've never really tracked. For me, that's too much emotional energy. It's way too much effort. Um, and then the few times I have done it, I actually ate less and I didn't need to. Like that wasn't a goal that I had. It was just like the the trudgery of putting it in my phone and measuring stuff and like trying to feed the kids and do all this stuff. I was like, I don't have time for this, so I'm just gonna like measure these couple things and throw it in, and like I don't have time to measure more stuff, so I wouldn't eat. And so that was not working for me. But now I'm just like 3 or 4 eggs for breakfast, milk, maybe some yogurt, cheese, a couple dates, steak for lunch, a couple more dates or mango, and then whatever meat we're having for dinner, I'll have that. And then
Don't
at
forget the bacon.
oh yeah, there's a lot of bacon. There is a lot of bacon. Usually for breakfast. Or if we have like breakfast for dinner, that's like eggs and bacon. Um, yeah, so that's kind of like my average right now. It's probably, I would say, I think it's a similar calorie load because I feel pretty satisfied. I'm not losing weight, I'm not gaining weight, but I am keeping like my muscle mass on, kind of like my like normal pre-children self. Because I hit a super low point after I had my 3 kids where I was like maybe like 109 pounds, but like a better number for me is like 130. So that's kind of where I'm hovering right now without even trying. I do a little bit of exercise, but it's really just kind of like therapy for my back. So it's not really like an intense, it's not a lot of cardio. It's like I use weights, but it's not like a big weightlifting thing. So I'm not like trying to gain muscle by my exercise or even burn tons of calories by it. So it's really just the food has been a big difference, shifting to like a very meat based, protein based. And so it's just my body composition as is just, I'm surprised how, I don't know why. Where it's like, well, I'm gonna eat tons of steak now. I don't know why it like surprised me how like I'm just like not wasting away anymore. I don't know. It just, I don't know. I got it's just, there's these holes in the crunchy, like these like crunchy compartments where it's like you have to eat so much plants to be as satisfied, and I was trying to do that, so it just didn't work out for me. It did not work out. So all that to say,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to lose weight. Actually, when I lose weight, I don't like it and it doesn't go well. So just eating meat is keeping my weight on me, and that's good. It's working for me.
And I think that's the amazing thing about it because if you need to gain weight, you kinda do with this diet, right? And then if
Mhm.
you need to lose weight, you do.
Mhm.
Sorry, I have a little bit of a cough going, but, I was gonna tell you because it sounds like you might have, like, a hyperthyroid or something, or maybe you did, or somewhere
Possibly, yeah.
borderline with that, you know?
Mhm.
I have the opposite problem where I have hypothyroid, and so and possibly Hashimoto's. My mom and my sister both got diagnosed recently with Hashimoto's, and so I actually did a blood test, and it was for the, like, food inflammation,
Mhm.
and so the results came back, and it's like you have blue foods you can eat and then red foods you can't eat, and it's just that simple, and so, like, I've been doing that for 3 weeks now, and it's been really hard because, like, I was liking the idea of the carnivore, like, that has, like, the milk and honey and berries and stuff, but with this, it tells you specific food, and it's like, I can't have egg milk, no cow's milk, no goat's milk.
Mhm.
I'm like, "Oh, man," like, I love butter on everything,
Yeah.
but so finding that new balance, but it's been good, and, like, I feel like bacon covers a multitude.
Yeah.
Like, add bacon to it, and it's good,
Mhm.
you know? And then, like, I'm a sauce person, and, like, I was
Mhm.
making homemade sour cream and homemade ranch dressing out of that and stuff, and, since I can't have that stuff, I'm like, "Okay, avocado," like, just mushing up avocados, like, that's my sauce
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
Um, and so just finding that balance, but, and it does work, like, I've already dropped 12 pounds,
that's awesome.
which I know is, like, insane amounts for 3 weeks, but when you cut out all the crap, when you go back to, like, the basics, like, it does make a huge difference, and I know a lot of people who are looking to lose weight, like, they find that, and like you were talking about too with, like, the kids and stuff, like, making, you know, side of rice or whatever for them to have with the meal and
Mhm,
different stuff like that, like, so it can be really simple because I think sometimes that's the fear people have too of, like, when they're approaching these different things of, like, "Well, how do I can't make 2 meals for everyone," and all this stuff, and it's like, "Hey, well, just make the meat, make the veggies, and then a side of rice, for the kids
yeah,
and stuff." So, I
yeah.
think those are all great tips. Um, a big thing I hear, and I'm sure you do too, is, "Oh my gosh, inflation, like, it's so hard to pay for food," and it's funny because 'cause it'll be from people who only have, like, two-person households and, like, have 2 incomes,
Mhm.
And so I know as a stay-at-home mom on 1 income, we have 9 kids, and then you guys have 5 kids and you're on 1 income, like, it kinda makes you chuckle, like, because yeah, it does suck. We do spend a lot of money on food, but how can you navigate food and, like, I don't know, just I guess, like, difference of, like, when you're buying junk, it can be a lot more actually. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I've like I said, I grew up as like an ingredient shopper, and we would make basically everything from scratch. Right now, I would say with the inflation, I don't think our food budget has gone up a lot. I have noticed prices of things like eggs. For many years, I would get the 95-cent eggs at Aldi, and now their eggs are usually more like $2, which is a large increase for eggs, right? What's that? 100%, more than 100% increase, right? And so that looks scary on a graph. But when eggs are your whole breakfast the whole week, um, an extra dollar is probably not going to double your whole grocery budget. So I still very firmly believe that shopping ingredients is absolutely the cheapest way. Eggs are way cheaper than a box of cereal. At least if you have 5 kids, they're going to devour at least 2 boxes of cereal every breakfast. So that's, I mean, and if you want the healthy cereal, it's like $8 a box. So it's just, and it's not going to keep you full. It's not going to have as many nutrients in there, and even if they're on the label, I don't think we're going to be absorbing as many of the nutrients from like grains and seeds, especially. Um, so your body's still good. It's going to tell. It's like, I want more nutrients. I'm going to tell you I'm hungry, and you might not necessarily need the calories, but if your body's like searching for those nutrients, you're going to want to eat more. So that was a main fear of mine going to the carnivore diet, because I think my thyroid, my metabolism was working a little too fast for whatever reason. I was like, I have to eat all day. I have constantly eating, and I think it was just because I wasn't getting as much of those bioavailable nutrients in the animal foods, um, like totally by accident. I wasn't doing it on purpose at all. Um, yeah. So as far as keeping things affordable, the repetition helps a lot. Like if you're buying giant packages of meat and you've got 20 pounds of ground beef, how many different things can you make with that? A lot, but it's not like chicken breast and some ground beef and some this meat and some that meat and some shrimp and some salmon. So definitely finding ways to make different meals with the same like basic things like ground beef, or if you like chicken better, great. So repetition really helps. And then the more nutrient dense bioavailable foods are probably going to keep you satisfied longer. So you're not eating like as big of a volume. I would say before I was eating mostly meat, I could eat like this much food. Like, how is my stomach that big? And I was like getting it all in there somehow and still feeling hungry. And now I'm like a steak and 3 dates, and I'm not hungry for like 6 hours. Sometimes I'm like, I'm not even hungry for dinner yet at dinner time. So there's that as well. if you have around you farmers, because I have noticed meat prices going up a lot, a lot, a lot, because that's all I eat kind of. Meat prices are high. Um, but still really sometimes I've been buying like the Aldi organic grass fed ground beef at about $5 to $6 a pound. I feel like since I got married, like almost for like 10, 12 years now, I feel like I spent a really stable price, and the kind of like regular meat, the regular ground beef and not organic or whatever, I feel like that's risen from like 250 to like 5. Sometimes I've even seen it for almost $10 a pound. And I'm like, that's more than the grass fed fancy stuff over here. Um, so, the cheaper cuts of meat are going to be always cheaper. And I think they're still really tasty and lots of different things you can do with them. Um, but yeah, for whatever reason, I have noticed that going up, but it's might as well just get the organic kind. If you have farmers around you, if there's less middle people, they don't have to increase the price every time it goes through someone else's hands, right? So if you have farmers markets that are the farmers bringing you the food that they made somehow, grown it, or animals, whatever it is, that's probably going to be as cheap as it can get, and they're still getting their profit without you having to pay more to profit all the middle people that go through it, that it goes through. So I know there's a beef farmer around me that does organic pasture, all the things, beef, and if you can afford and house a half a cow, it's $5 a pound for the whole cow. So like right now, I'm usually buying steaks for like 12 or $13 a pound, but even their steaks and everything, $5. I've seen maybe like $7 or $8, even $9 to average it all out is still a really good price for that. So bigger packages, less steps if you can get somehow, closer to a farm in any fashion. I've loved growing food before. I have not done very much of it since moving to Texas and not eating as many vegetables. but but that's always an option. And then things like frozen fruit instead of fresh fruit. Um, and I think those are probably my main things. I mean, if you can tolerate grains, then that's great. Oats and rice are always cheap. I still do make dry beans, like maybe once a week, probably. Still do dry beans, and I will soak them for a couple days if I think of it. If I don't think of it, we'll eat them anyways. And I'm on this no stress, no stress, not worrying about it. We got to eat. So I think that goes a long way as well. But yeah, it's really hard to stand behind people in the checkout line, and their cart's as full as my cart. And I know someone behind me is like, look at that crazy lady. Me, I'm the crazy one. She bought all organic stuff, like, which I don't, but close enough. From distance, it looks like all organic. Fruit, meat, cheese, so much dairy, so much meat. And look at all those kids. And the thing is, like, that cart lasts us a whole week. And then the person in front of me that's got like snacks and like a lot of drinks. So that's one thing. Besides raw milk, I don't buy drinks. I'll get like a box of tea or something, but those are pretty cheap when you're having tea every other day. Um, we don't buy a lot of drinks, and I just don't do a lot of like specialty things. Like not buying a lot of sauces, nothing's chopped or prepared or seasoned or pre-made in any fashion. So that helps keeps the cost down a lot. But when you fill up your cart with stuff that's like already made and kind of just like those extra things that aren't just ingredients, you probably have to go shopping twice as much because it's not going to last as long. And then that is going to drive up your prices for sure. Because I know when I'm getting those like quicker things, and I definitely have those seasons where I'm just like, I'm grabbing a loaf of bread and lunch meat and this and that and snacks and gummies because I want to have fun and or whatever it is. When we're grabbing those easy things, I definitely feel the inflation, but not nearly as much when we're just doing the same old regular just ingredients. Um, I think it hasn't been too bad. And I can't speak for everyone. And we do live in a we do live in a state in that area where I think the cost of food and stuff is lower than averages other places, and not everyone can just move to a cheap place, but that's I'm definitely thankful for that.
For sure. I mean, what is it? Is it Alaska and Hawaii both? Like, their milk and stuff is expensive?
Yeah.
I know for sure Hawaii.
Mhm.
Um, but, like, you're talking about, like, I don't know, like, cereal and stuff like that stuff, A, it's not breakfast, it's a dessert. But B, it doesn't go very far. Like, my kid
Mhm.
like, my teenagers could eat an entire box and still be like, "I'm hungry," you know? Like,
I
so
could
it's
do that.
not real food, it's not gonna satiate them,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, definitely, like, steering clear of that type of stuff, and even like you said, like, even if it says it's organic, like, a lot of those prepackaged foods are so pricey, like, don't
Mhm.
buy them. Don't go there, you know? And of course, like, if you want a special treat now and then, whatever. I know Costco has good options too, like, that you can
Oh,
buy in
yeah.
bulk, you know, and I feel
Mhm.
like if I'm gonna buy, like, the snacky stuff that's organic, it's gonna be from Costco and nowhere
Yeah.
else because 'cause I'm like, it's gonna be the best price there. But let's talk a little bit about, like, good, better, best, like, that whole mentality of, like we were talking about almost, like, best would be, like, from a local farmer, grass-fed, grass-finished, right? And
Mhm.
then better so well, where am I at? Better would be like, you know, maybe it's local, but it's rain finished or something, right? And then good is just meat from the store because guess what? Like
Mhm.
that's still better than the Oreos, right?
Yeah.
And so let's talk about that philosophy, but then also like you were talking about seasons of life too and stuff. Like I know when I'm pregnant, stuff shifts because I don't know if you know this, but I am sick like my entire pregnancy.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, I can have a really hard time, like, cooking and stuff, but
Mhm.
let's talk about seasons of life and just shifting and being okay with things.
Yeah, definitely. If you can prioritize or find, ask yourself, what are my priorities right now? If it's just I feel sick constantly and something has to get on the table, then I'm not going to be worrying about like standing there cooking it, right? So I just have to be okay with that. It's like a little pep talk, you know. That's definitely more like in your head type of thing than what am I actually like what am I actually physically doing with the food, you know? So there's that. I have thought about the good, better, best a lot lately, especially since I started eating more bacon. And it was funny how I realized it recently that I was thinking about it again because I was like, you know what? Right now I'm thinking, and this is just me, it's not like a rule for everybody. Right now I'm thinking that um just not organic or grass fed or pasture or anything, but just plain bacon without the preservatives, to me, right now that's better than a box of cereal. So like that's great. And that's well, all I'm worried about, you know? I don't have the option for the super organic, like whatever it is, extra super, super pricey. That other bacon is twice as much. So I'm getting the not as cheap, but almost cheapish stuff at Aldi. And you know, it's just because I've asked myself what my priorities are right now. So I'd rather have meat than grains, then that's what I'm picking out. And it's not organic and that's fine. And so we do that a lot. I do that a lot. Like a super good like middle option I love. Aldi has like organic plain Greek yogurt. Love that. It's a good price. It's got hardly any ingredients. It says it's organic, and the Greek yogurt is like it's denser, right? So it's you get more servings out of it. I love that. Costco also has a really good option. They have the at least the one near me has like a very similar organic, and it's probably has like pasture raised on it too, yogurt that like comes in a 2 pack, and it's like maybe like 4.50 for one of the big tubs, but it's together, so it's like $9. Whereas at my local natural grocers, those same yogurts are probably like $7 for one. So that's definitely a good price saver. We do love Costco. I wish it was closer to me though, because I would go more often. Um, but yeah, just asking yourself what do I need to focus on right now, and like and then be okay with that. And it's okay if it changes and if it shifts. You know, sometimes like especially after I have a baby, I'm just living on like kind of smoothies and snack food, and and whatever people bring us, and I'm like, thank you for feeding my kids. And I'll have like some stuff in the freezer, and they know how to do some stuff themselves, so they're not like totally on their own. But I'm okay with it for that season, and that's how it is. I've really come a long way in worrying about every single little thing, and then stepping back and being like, wait, I don't have to worry about all of the things because I just shouldn't. It's not good for me, and it steals time and happiness and joy, and that's no fun. And that probably is one of the ways where people that want to point fingers at the healthy people, like, you're gonna give your kids a complex about it. I think, yeah, when I was in that phase of like super hyper worrying about every single thing, I definitely had a complex for a little bit. But that was just me. I just put that on myself. And I think it's just you just grow. And over time, you're just like, I'm gonna let go of the things that aren't serving me and that are actually kind of like stealing away from me, and not adding goodness to the whole picture of my life. Um, my mom did a really good job raising us where she was like, we're going to be as healthy as we can be at home, and this is what we're working with. This is how much we can spend. This is how much time we can spend. This is how much energy we can spend, and that's good enough. Like, that's what we can do. And you go to a birthday party, eat the birthday party food. It's fine, like. And it was. And I would eat the birthday party food, and I'd be like all like jittery and like, and like maybe get a headache or something, and I'm like, you know what, this is good. This is why I don't eat this every day. But it was like yummy and fine, right? Like, it's not gonna tank your whole self forever, to go to a birthday party and eat some bread cupcakes. um, but yeah, so that's definitely letting go of trying to be a perfectionist about it. And I also just realized that your own idea of what's perfection is going to change anyway, so there's no way you're like always going to be grasping like at perfection no matter what. So I've definitely let go of that. um and then yeah, so like I said, just asking yourself what your priorities are. And they can be different. They can be different than mine, can be different than yours. And that's going to help boil down like what you should spend your time and energy on. Definitely.
I love that, yeah. And that whole idea of like, that people say things like that, like, oh, it's gonna get on a complex. Like, it's funny because like growing up, my mom was kind of like your mom in the aspect of like, the cereals we had, it was like Cheerios or
Mhm.
Kicks. Like it was like the plain, like, and even to this day, I do not like Lucky Charms. I do not
No,
like,
I don't either.
and so I'm like so grateful for that.
Mhm.
But I am a huge chocolate person, so like, yeah, I would go down on chocolate like crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then even like we were talking about too, like, growing up, my mom did a lot of like lean, like, so like it was all like chicken or
Mhm.
like the low fat, I guess.
Mhm.
And it's funny because I have like borderline anemia a lot, and so I'm like, I think it's from that, like, 'cause we never ate red meat, like hardly, and
Yeah.
so like realizing too, like, what are these foods giving you? And like when you eat
Mhm.
red meat, you're replenishing so many vital like nutrients
Yes.
that you need in your body.
Mhm.
And like you were talking about the fatigue and stuff, like it's gonna go so far when you're eating these foods that are nutrient dense, that are actually built to like for us to eat. They're
Mhm.
not like, modified in some lab. So I think doing our best, to always go for those foods and then giving room for things that are out of our control. Like if we
Mhm.
are out and about and we're starving and we're too far from home to prep something, like what can we do, and doing what's in our means and stuff. And
Yeah.
there have been times where like we could buy all organic, and there's been times where it's like, nope, our budget doesn't
Nope.
allow for that.
Yeah,
And
I've
so
definitely let go of certain organic things. I know some people really like their clean 15 fruits and stuff, so that can be super helpful if you just want to go for those like clean 15. Right now, I'm just going for mostly frozen fruit. Like, that's just one of my priorities right now because I have to buy so much. I only want to go shopping once a week. That's another one of my priorities right now. So I'm like, I can get like 12 bags of frozen fruit, and and it's so much cheaper than the fresh fruit right now, and it lasts, and I don't have to worry about, is it on the counter, is it in the fridge, is it ripe, is it this, is it that. So it's makes it so easy for me right now. I also just have not been buying the organic frozen fruit, and I don't care. Like I moved on. So
Yeah.
I also think like when we are really nourishing our bodies and sunlight and having like enjoyable experiences and not stressing out all the time, that like some of these things that are not good for us, our body is going to be able to work it out better. There was like this funny, not funny, but there was an interesting viral video. I don't know, it was a while ago. It was probably like 6 or 7 years ago. And it was showing a family that they had given like standard produce, I guess. I don't know all the details, but they'd given them like standard meat and produce for like a couple of weeks and then done some, I think like a blood test, urinalysis, some things that they tested to see if they could see like pesticides or something like that, and then they did like the organic and there was like a lot less or something, and there was like two main reactions where some people were like, see, the organic has like less garbage in it, and like, yeah, probably okay. And then there's these other people that were like, well, if you don't eat the organic, your body's going to push out the garbage, and probably maybe some of it gets stuck in there. How can you measure that, right? So I thought that was really interesting, and I've been thinking about that too. Where I'm like, you know what? I think if we're like nourishing our bodies and getting all those things that we really do need to make our body function really well, we probably can withstand the things that we can't control that are not perfect. There's probably some chemicals somewhere that someone has not discovered what step of the process it came in, so um I'm just not worrying too much about that. And like I would say on those really busy days, like some of my like cheat foods, as far as like I'm not at home to like cook something, I'm really glad lately. Actually, I think like some gas stations and like fast food and stuff, I'll go in and grab a totally not organic or anything, like a 2% milk, right? Because it's not Kool-Aid, right? They usually have like hard boiled eggs, which might sound super disgusting to get from a gas station, but I don't think the gas station people are boiling the eggs. I think they get them like in a case in these little like 2 egg packages, which is kind of funny. Um, and they lately there's like these snack packs that have like meat and cheese and maybe like some chocolate covered almonds, or meat and cheese and like these tiny breadsticks or pretzels or something, or I get these ones at the 7-Eleven by me. They have meat and cheese and olives. I'm like, that's perfect, perfect. And then I'll grab like an orange juice or something. So I think there's still like, if you're being crafty and you're looking for those still kind of like one ingredient things, I think even at gas stations they're kind of like becoming a little bit more popular. I think they're realizing that like people like me are going to stop in a gas station sometimes, and I will pay like a little bit more for something like that than a bag of chips or like Chex Mix or something like that. So I think there's a lot of options out there. And then also like we'll go to fast food every once in a while, and I'll order what did we do recently? We got Just Burgers, where I was like, I'm feeling iffy about the oil on the fries today. So we're gonna get Just Burgers and it's gonna be so yummy, kids. Isn't this fun? Because we like never go out, right? And that's what we did. We had the burgers, it was fun. We had some like we filled up on more whatever it was, like fruit, bananas, or whatever we had at home like 3 hours later. So it's not like we were starving without the fries. I was just like, we have to go out and get something quick. We're on our way somewhere, and we'll eat a little bit more, because the kids, they were worried they weren't going to be full, and I was like, I totally hear you, and we'll pick up something more that's a little bit better than fries later somewhere else, or we'll make some popcorn when we get home or something. And I just ordered like 3 or 4 patties, no bread, and that actually did fill me up for the whole day. So I think there's there's options out there, right? Or if you were on the road, you could stop at a fast food, or maybe there is like an Aldi or like a discount like grocery store, or just any grocery store nearby that you could just quickly go in, like scan the perimeter, like grab a cheese stick and a banana and head out. But even at my grocery stores, like by the registers, there's usually like a kind of like a to go fridge where there's like some subs, wraps, salad, like made in the like lunch container kind of things, like single serve things. And I've noticed they have a lot of those like little snack containers like fruit, cheese, and meat. So I think that's fun, and the options are out
Yeah.
there if you're looking for single ingredient things. And even if that's like 12, I don't know, for my family, like I might spend like 15 or $20 on that. But going out is going to be like 60, $70 at least. And then it's one meal or a little bit less than one meal. So that's what we do. We do kind of like hybrid things. Not a lot, but enough where um, it's super handy and it's still kind of fun. It still kind of feel it kind of feels like we ate out. We got snacks at the gas station.
For sure, and it saves a lot of money, like you're saying, like, anytime you go out to eat, it's gonna be so much more expensive,
Mhm.
and in all honesty, a lot of times if we do go out to eat, my kids will be hungry not that long
Yeah,
after, and
yeah,
it's like, "Oh, I'm glad we just spent a fortune on eating out," like,
yeah.
um, another note I was gonna say, because we used to travel a lot with my husband for work,
Hmm.
and we would just stop at Walmart and just
Yeah.
grab stuff to make whatever, so
Mhm.
if it was, like, making a sandwich or whatever, because it was just so much cheaper than going through the drive-through, and then, like,
Yeah.
Wendy's too, they have a à la carte menu that no one knows about, I guess, but there's an à la carte menu so you can order just a patty for super
Hmm.
cheap compared to, like, ordering a burger without the bun.
Yeah.
Uh, so search Google, find the tips and tricks there too,
Hmm.
but there's a couple for you guys,
Yeah,
but
because
yeah,
those
trying
places they still want us to come there. So I think they're paying attention to like trends or people talking online and stuff where they're like, how can we get those people that don't want to eat here to still eat here sometimes? And here we
right.
are.
Well, even, like, I used to do, like, the baked potato and chili from
Mm,
Wendy's too, and just combine
sounds
them.
good.
So, there's lots of options. You just
Yeah.
gotta get creative and really look at the menu and be like, "Okay, how can I make this work for me?"
Mhm.
Recently, we went out on a double date, and it was, like, my favorite Mexican place, but I'm trying to be really strict just because I have so much inflammation in my body, like, my hands are finally starting to heal. I have eczema really bad on my
Right.
hands, and so I'm
Yeah.
like, I just don't wanna, like, go backwards. I'm like, I
Yeah.
just moving forward. But we went out to eat, and so, like, everyone's ordering the burritos and stuff, and I just ordered a side of steak.
Mhm.
And it was good, it was filling, and I know
Yeah.
it probably looks silly just been like, "Can I just have a side of steak?" But, it works, and you can figure
Mhm.
it out, so,
Yeah.
real quick, because I don't wanna keep you too long, we're over an hour now. Um,
Okay.
so let's kinda recap really fast, kinda top ideas, maybe top if we can think of top 5 maybe or something
Mhm.
for someone who's maybe wanting to become more country or just like cr- crunchy or just transitioning more into like this crunchy lifestyle for the first time, like kind of top 5 tips for them.
Yeah. So I would say keep it simple and be okay with repetition. That would be one. Number two, I would say ask yourself what do you want to eat or what do you want to like have in your skincare, because there's always going to be more things that you probably don't want or that people are saying are bad and you should avoid. So that was a big game changer for me. What do I want instead of all the things I don't want, because those things change a lot too, so it's like a losing battle. um Asking yourself what your priorities are. Like if you need to save time, if you need to get cheaper things, like I'm doing with my frozen fruit right now, or is the organic super important to you? Is it quicker to cook, or do you have more cooking time? So you do have to work with yourself a little. What are your priorities, and what are the like skills and resources you're working with? Um, let's see, yeah, some simplicity, definitely. It's a little bit different than repetition, but they kind of go hand in hand. Simplicity, like you're probably not going to be able to do like all like I used to try to copy everything that I wanted to have, but like a healthier version, and that's absolutely possible. So maybe this is kind of like number five, but maybe not. This can work, right? Like if you love your Easy Mac, you can totally make it at home. But if that's like seems too hard, like then don't have the Easy Mac, right? Like don't have mac and cheese. If you're not going to figure out how to make it at home, I would say just go without and be okay with that. so simplicity, like it can be like ingredients next to each other on a plate. Like it doesn't have to be a whole meal. It's like that's basically what I'm having for all my meals right now. It's like steak, dates, butter. Like it doesn't really look like a meal, right? And that's okay. And we do that for lunches a lot with my kids because they help make the lunch. It's kind of their job right now. But they're not making like lasagna and pots of chili and like stew and like this stuff that like takes a lot of skill and it's like a whole meal like cohesively together. It's kind of like just like separate food things and then we just eat them next to each other. So to me, that's like a simplicity thing. And then I would say like for number five, like do the replacement things if there's stuff that like you just feel like you emotionally cannot live without. Like um do the replacements. But if it's like too hard, maybe you don't have the cooking skills or it's too many steps or it takes too much time or something like that, then maybe just try and live without those things. And it sounds like not fun. So you have to decide if that's going to work out for you in the end. Like if it's like kind of one of those like things you want to push through and like overcome, and that's going to feel good and positive and like a great accomplishment for you. But if it just feels like such a drag, then do like make the replacements. Like you can totally make mac and cheese at home. You can totally make like your favorite thing from this restaurant at home with like just simple ingredients. That is totally doable. So I would say like for number five, it's kind of like has two sides of that one coin of like having those like replacement foods or like not replacement things. So um uh like my last example with that would be there's a lot of especially like skincare and beauty that I just do without because replacements are hard to find. Like I don't know how to read the ingredients on nail polish, so I don't paint my nails. Like maybe like once a year in the summer I'll paint my toenails and just like let it flake off eventually. Like and maybe have like a low odor. Like it's probably not at all crunchy. It just has something on the label where I was like, maybe that's better. Or like a lot of makeup and stuff I do without. Like today I just didn't put on my mascara, but I've never been like doing lots of makeup anyway, so I just keep it super simple and I'm kind of more of like a do without it person as far as like things going on my skin. Like have more deodorant in like 15 years, but don't worry, I don't really smell unless you get that close. um or like you know face wash, masks, to like all this like beauty stuff on my skin. I feel like if you eat pretty good, your skin will probably look basically fine. So that's kind of like one of my things that I just do without instead of finding those like healthy replacements. Because also if you're finding like a prepared healthy replacement, say like the organic mac and cheese, it's going to be more expensive. It'll be cheaper if you make it at home, but do you have the time and energy for that? So it's kind of like that coin. You got to figure out what side of the coin you're on, and it's okay if you change sides, flip flop back and forth, whatever works.
I agree, and I love all those tips. And I know we didn't really touch on like house cleaning products or any of that stuff,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
like even that is so simple, like water and vinegar,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
baking soda. And I know
Mhm.
like for my body wash, I use Castile soap. I use Castile soap for all of our soap needs, really.
It
Um,
works so great. Yeah.
yeah. And so people overcomplicate it. They'll buy the
Mhm.
expensive stuff, and like you don't have to.
Yeah.
And like if there's something that you're not willing to part with, so like I'm very much like, oh, let's get rid of all the stuff. But Clorox wipes for us have been handy to have on hand for certain
Mhm.
things. And I don't know if you guys have seen Emily, the really very crunchy. She was talking about how
Oh
they
yeah.
try to like go without paper towels and just do
Yeah.
like cloth. And then her
Mhm.
dog like vomited or had diarrhea or something
Yeah.
terrible. And they're like,
Yeah.
we gotta go to the store and get paper towels. So there sometimes is a place and a purpose still for some of these things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's
Like
gonna be different for every family.
yep. I'll ask myself like when I just want to have a little thought experiment, or like when I forget to bring my phone in the bathroom and you're thinking about nothing and you're like, huh, this weird like idea pops into your head. And I'm like, how did people used to live without XYZ, like paper towels, right? And so for a while I did challenge myself, like, how many cloths can I like use instead of paper towels? And like, I mean, it saved me like a teeny bit of money, right? And then I was like, just on the principle of it, they're probably made with so many chemicals, right? But like, we have paper towels. I don't use them a lot, but yeah, fun things like that. And those are just like those are literally just like the spice of life that just make it fun. And we still do convenience things here and there. Like I do keep unscented baby wipes because every once in a while it's just like I just want a wipe for something. I know people lived without them forever, but like I just use baby wipes on a lot of things. And I feel like
It's funny that you bring baby wipes up because I'm like, I always tell people, I'm like, that's the one thing, like, after my kids are grown, like, I'm gonna probably have baby wipes in my bag forever.
yeah.
They're
I
just
mean,
so handy.
and I feel like they're cheaper than cleaning wipes, right? Like if it's a wipe like made for cleaning, I think they're gonna be a lot more expensive and probably have a lot more chemicals and like fragrances and like all this stuff because like they think you're like really cleaning stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to really clean the thing. I just want to like wipe it a little. Like I don't need to
Right.
like blast it with like antimicrobial like this and that.
Yes.
Oh,
I was gonna add to, like, just for people who are new to this, like, do your research because knowing the why, knowing, like, I don't wanna put toxic makeup on my skin because my skin's the biggest absorber, of all these things, like, I don't want that in my system and my body, like, why should I do that, you know?
mhm.
It makes it easier to make those changes and transitions for sure.
Yeah.
So make sure you know why. Like, why am I not doing this? Um, and also be willing to change because, like, when I first started this journey, it was probably like about 12 years ago when I had my son, like my first home birth, and I was like just learning so many things. And I just remember just being so like used to like the processed crap, and used to the
Mhm.
junk that like eating like raw vegetables was so hard for me. Like,
Yeah.
and so be willing to like go through that period of like this kind of sucks
Yeah.
and then like give it some time though because then you actually might start liking it,
Mhm.
and you
Yeah.
have to like change your palate because you might have been raised completely different than what you're doing now.
Mhm.
And so giving it time and being willing to change. And then also like, yeah, those things are out of your control. Like, don't try to control your husband. Don't do it.
Yeah. It's
It's
so
it's
fun.
unnecessary fights, it's unnecessary arguments. Like if he
Yeah.
wants to bring home some sort of little Debbie's, like, oh well.
Yeah. Just have
you
fun.
know? Yeah.
It's I've grown to like those little things because he does love to bring home snacks and treats, or like he's just out more with people that know we have kids and they're like, oh, like other people will give him stuff that's for the kids, so, like usually candy or something. And I used to be very like, no, we're gonna like replace all of those things with like better options. And it's like I've just grown to appreciate like those little fun things and not worry about like how long does this last in my body and stuff like that. And I think it's worth it. Like
Yeah.
I
And
think it's
stressing
nice.
and fighting over it is gonna cause so much more health issues than just being
Yeah.
like, "Whatever,
Yeah.
it's fine this time?"
Yeah.
So that's my encouragement to everyone. I could talk to
Mhm.
you all day, Gina.
I
So
know.
I'm like, this has been so fun to actually talk to you like face
Yeah.
to face. Because I don't think we've ever been able to do that, have we? We just
Yeah.
have
I don't think so.
messaged on Instagram. So I so appreciate you
Thank you
taking the
so
time.
much.
You're just so full of like so much wisdom, I feel like, and I just love following you and all the things you share. Like, keep going. And
Thank
then again,
you.
share
You
with everyone
too.
where to find you.
Mhm. Yeah, mostly on Instagram. I mean, Facebook as well. On Instagram, it's Gina Cotting, but you can also look for Not Your Grandma's Homemaker.
I love it. Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Thanks for anyone who tuned in.
Yeah.
And if you
Thank
have any
you.
questions, you can contact me or Gina on Instagram. You
Mhm.
can find us both there or comment on this video. And yeah, we will see
Yeah.
you guys later.
Sounds
Thanks.
good. See ya. Thank you.